Hi there. So I just want to show off this machine that I put together. It's going to go be rehomed with one of my good buddies. So before I do, I just want to take a little bit of time to show off some of the build of this, along with the improvements and modifications I've done. So this machine here that we are looking at is a arcade one-up signature Black Series cabinet, which was a limited edition when it comes out, and now it's just issued every now and then. The improvements I've made as far as hardware goes is I've added a 24-inch monitor to it. So the previous screen, I believe it was just up to here. So they only had a play field of that big. So this is a 24 inches, and it's a 16 by 10. So the 16 by 10 is what you would prefer to have, because you'll get a lot more width in your room. Anyways, I swapped out the computer interface that ran it. I mean, stock games, you only ran these, which, nothing wrong with these games. I mean, they're great games. But why settle for 10, 12 games when you can have over 10,000? So that's what I did. This is working off of a Virtual Man Raspberry Pi 4 image. I've just added more ROMs to it. I had it configured to where it would rotate this way, because if it wasn't configured, then everything would be going long ways, which is not how you want to play this thing. So it's cocktail table specific, and went through that. So it's going through a few of the game listings here. Right here is telling you what system they run on. Get out of this and just briefly go over some of the systems. So altogether, we are carrying 10,693 games. And that's going between our systems. We have 3 Duo Arcade, Atari 26 and 78. We have the handheld Linux, Thomas Wave, Coleco, Dreamcast, Channel 4, Family Computer, the Family Computer Disk System, Super Famicom, which is roughly the Super Nintendo in Japan, Game Watch, Game Gear, Game Boy, Advance, Genesis. Scroll through and you can all see that. Okay, now you get down to here and you have your collections. So, say you don't want to dig for them, you want to play all Capcom classics. So these are primarily Capcom games. Well, I was going to say it's not Street Fighter, but there are Street Fighters, so if you ever want to play Capcom games outside of the fighting genre, you can find the collection in here. You have A Day to East, I believe, some big games. Through this one is going to be your RoboCop. Got some Cardinals Revenge there. RoboCop 1 and 2. Play some Thunder Zone. I'm sure someone out there knows that game. Okay. Yes, and we have our Double Dragons, so you can go through your Double Dragons. Now, the cool thing about these collections is it just grabs games from every console. So instead of having to search For the consoles, then you can just come here. So we have the Return Double Dragon for the Famicom, the SNES, and the MSU one, which that is pretty much the PlayStation before Sony took it over. That was the Nintendo prototype. Now we have our Final Fantasy, so let's get one into one of these. Now for most of the RPG games on here, and I love my RPGs, the screen's going to be going a long ways, which I think is pretty badass. Let's go with 3. 3 has always been one of my personal favorites. Oh, the audio is turned down because I don't want any music copyright strikes, but whenever you're scrolling through the games on the background, there's going to be music playing. So I've installed over 400 songs, and the music genres is all over the place. But the decades, I try to keep it as close to the 80s through the early 2000s. Because in my arcade heyday, that was about the era I grew up in. So it just helps create that environment of being in the arcade, being in a skating rink, playing the video games. So that was my era, and I'm sure a lot of y'all's too. I'm gonna check that out. All right, it's a good thing y'all can't see me right now because I forgot my belt. Okay, let's get out of this. And to get out of any game, you're just going to hit the select or arcade. That'd be the coin button. Can't see it, poor lighting, and the start at the same time on player 1. A cool option, you can also save these games. Now, they'll all save it natively as they would on the original console, but if you're in a game that has no save spots, or you're just in a very long area or save spots forever, you can save it just like this. Hit this button with this. This is going to be your R button. So these, by default, are set up as SNES. So you're going to have your B, A, X, Y, L, and R. So we're going to save this. You'll see down here, it lets me know it's saved. And if I want to load it, I'll just hit the select and L button. Easy way for me to keep that mixed up. L equals loading. Simple enough. So let's go ahead and load our previous save. And there you go. It has loaded. It's going to take us right back to there. Eventually. There we go. Okay, let's get out of this. Let's see, we have our old school NES classics. So whenever the Nintendo Mini came out years ago, it had 30 games. So this is a playlist that's going to have those 30 games. So it's like you just have your own little makeshift Nintendo Classic in here. Same thing with the SNES Classic. So if you go to the SNES Mini, these are going to be the same games you'll find on that machine. And these are cool just to have. Alright, so let's go through a few little arcade games. Now, these arcade games are set in 3 different ways. One of them is, I don't like it, so I'll show you that off the bat. Find a game, I think it's that one. We'll let this play. Now, this may be great for your vertical games like this one. So, some may prefer it, some may not prefer it. And I'm talking about is right here. So, you have one side that's going to have all this space, and this side is going to have all this space. Let's put quarters in. Let's get this started. Yeah, so if you're playing these plain shoot 'em up games, you prefer the longer you a long ways, then it's perfect for you. For me, I would rather it being horizontal, and I will show you that here after this. So this will be the second way it shows, and this is primarily how all the consoles are set up. It's my favorite. Afterburner. That's a great game. Now, actually, this is going to be the full screen cocktail mode. Some games I hand-picked because I think they look much better this way. Being that there's over 2,000 arcade games, I really couldn't go through every one of them and do this. But the ones I think that would just look exceptionally awesome, I set them up with this mechanism. Alright, so we're good there. I'll get out of that. Let's get one here. You know what? We'll go with basic old Street Fighter. So, two ways to scroll through. You can just scroll like that. Kind of takes too long. If you know roughly where you want to be, then you can use L or R to change it by the screen. And we're going to look for Street Fighter Champion. Street Fighter Champion is my favorite. I believe it's the one that really got me started. The regular Street Fighter 2 was awesome. I played it a little bit, but what really grasped me in the arcade was Champion Edition. So I put some quarters in. Give me Balrog, and I will just punch and punch and punch until the world stops turning. But so this is primarily what you're going to have. Now imagine this screen, but on a 17-inch, and then you cut that 17 inches in half. You might only have this much a playfield per side, which is dumb. So from here to here, you have 18 inches of playfield. So you have almost the same size of screen per side as the original monitor that was in here. Okay, so one-handed is a little bit tougher. So let's get out of this. Alright, I want to show you one more as far as the arcade goes, and that's going to be a Pac-Man, and it's the third type of display that you can play on this, and that's original cocktail mode. So when I say original cocktail mode, this goes back to these little sit-down machines you see when you're in the bar, and I think there were 60 original games on, or 60 original games that came out that way. And I try to get the majority of those switched as well. But it's going to go full screen. Now the cool thing is if you're playing with two players, which you'll have to hit player number 2 to do 2 players. But the screen is going to rotate when it's player 2's turn. So let's go ahead and die. Now if things are done correctly, it's going to rotate over. And it's not, so give me a... Alright, so I believe I got it working correctly this time. So let's try that one more time. Get your quarters in. We're going to flip to this side. See, when you want to die, they run away from you. When you don't want to die, they chase you. Alright, there we go. So now, player 2 can play. And then he dies, goes back over here. Boom, there we go. Like I said, there's so many games, I didn't have time to check them all, so it's a great thing I found that one. That is a very popular game, so it should be turned. I think I'll give the arcade games another once over before I let this thing go to make sure I got all the good ones like that. Let's go over some obscure stuff. You know, we know that's going to work. That's going to work. So, Nintendo CD. A lot of these were only released in Japan because the prototype didn't really take off that well, so all these just stayed over there. The biggest difference in these games is the soundtrack. And I wish I could have audio on this, but if you play Street Fighter 2 Turbo and the audio plays, it's completely different. It sounds good, some people prefer it better, some don't. Again, that's just a personal preference. So that's that. PlayStation 3X Virtual Boy. Alright, so let me get you in a handheld game. Okay, so we'll go to last played. If you don't want to go scroll through and, you know, you always play the same games, just go to last play. Chances are you will find your game tucked away in here somewhere. Yeah. Cat's going ape shit. Ain't that awesome? Alright, so advance. Let's get some Pokemon action going on. Everybody loves Pokemon, at least if you grew up in this era. Yeah. Okay, that'll work. So since when you're playing handheld, you're normally just playing by yourself. So I have the handhelds all set to vertical full screen. There we go. The game. Well, you get the point. And Nintendo, I do have some choice games flipped over. So not every Nintendo game is going to be split screen. I think a lot of more popular Nintendo games weren't 2-player or above. And a lot of Nintendo games really do look good. Going vertical. Legend of Zelda looks good. I'll show that one off. So we'll end the video right here. And honestly, by the time I was done into the overhaul on the internals, overhaul on the programming, it's probably turned into one of my favorite builds. I really wish I didn't need to rehome this thing, but you know, things happen. Go ahead and do that. Look at my select button. End it, play it. Boom. We have The Legend of Zelda on a cocktail. I think it's kind of epic. Old man. Yeah, that old man's pretty creepy. Just, I don't know, something about him. I think it's hot something underneath that robe, and that's probably where the three-headed dragon in a dungeon came from. But don't quote me on that. Okay, well anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your day to come and waste it with me. Catch y'all later.